Chapter 9, my definition and personal plan. Extremely important to understand that when I wrote this, I had a huge problem with 1 Hour to Wealth. I was going to change the name of it and then start doing marketing, and then the business took off and was doing really well, and then the business dropped off and wasn't doing really well, and I was like, I just kind of left it in the bin. But when I wrote this, I knew that wealth would be kind of a red herring, I guess that's what I want to call it, that it would throw people off. And I know I had to give a definition. I also knew I had to give my own personal plan to make sure that everything revolves around what I went through, because whatever you read in the book, you take into it what you bring to it, and it's yours to do with what you please with. And that's how it is here. I can tell you what I did, or I can tell you what I went through, but it's going to be based on your own personal experience, how the information that I give you works for you. But in this chapter, chapter 9, I'm going to give my definition and personal plan. Investing in the future in this book, right? It's not the same as it is for most financial freedom books. The goal is to build wealth in a traditional manner that leads to sustaining wealth beyond your generation. Everybody knows generational wealth and the things that come with it, and how there's so many different programs and plans out there that you can implement that you have to pay for. And I'm doing this, I'm just kind of giving this away as far as this book is concerned. I do want people to have generational wealth, but I don't even have that myself yet. So when I wrote this, and even now, wealth is a completely different thing. Investing in your future here and what I'm doing, it's almost a contradiction. Now, I hope I hope it's not off-putting for you, but it's definitely a contradiction. It requires you and your spouse to consider only having one income for years. So how can you gain wealth on one income when you're starting at the bottom? What am I getting at here? For what I'm doing here, investing in your future, as we stand, if you're listening, is giving 100% of your soul, your effort, and your guidance to your children. How does that make you wealthy? As a married couple, when I wrote this book, we had one child and then 2 children when, I finally finished the book in 2011. We had one income and we had thousands of dollars of debt. So the question was, how do you develop wealth when you're in debt and you have one income? It's hard, man. It's very hard, especially when you're looking at wealth as what you give to your children. You have to understand, if you have one breadwinner and you have a child, you have to work on these alternative methods to get things, right? What I need you to realize right now, I'm asking you, if you're married or a couple, and this is a very hard thing to ask, that's why I'm moving into it so cautiously. One of you needs to quit your job and stay at home with your child or children. Now, I know this seems odd to have a wealth book that tells you to quit your job and stay at home with your children. Because if one person is at home, it's going to introduce new struggles. But investing in the future is needed in our society. We have become so entranced by keeping up with the Joneses and having the latest accessories that everyone else has. And this is leading to our kids falling by the wayside. Think about it. There have been increases in childhood violence, childhood depression, childhood suicide, and it correlates directly to the lack of love and support in the family. We even have childhood obesity that's developed into childhood diabetes. And these things were almost unheard of prior to the power couple. Now, am I blaming all of this on both parents working? I can't say I'm blaming, because that's not fair. It's not fair. But look at your neighborhood, right? Neighborhoods have become association hoods. No one really knows each other. Kids lack the self-esteem needed to develop into healthy adults. And all of these things are a direct reflection of the adult who has placed their career ahead of the family and the child. We have 2 children, and I've been the primary breadwinner in our family. Now, at the time that I was writing this, our son was 6 years old, and he actually read at a 5th or 6th grade level when he was 6. And for his teachers, when he was in school, this was almost incomprehensible. In many instances, they didn't know what to do with him. Now, when he was 9, he was playing soccer and learning guitar and studying Spanish. But we took him out of school in the 2nd grade, and he became homeschooled. At 9 years old, his reading level was at the high school level. His 1st grade teacher realized that she could literally do a whole lesson and he can play around and be aloof, but he also had the ability to give her the whole lesson plan back to her, verbatim, and answer any question that she had. This was problematic for that teacher. And she would call us in for meetings saying that he was playing or doing all this. And she was very hard on this kid, man. You know, and our son was suffering because he was smart. So we took him out of school. Now I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, because I need to talk about our son a little bit more, because when he was that young, he had taken these just wild interest in Gothic literature, and he was looking to read like Dracula by Bram Stoker and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. He was on book 5 at 9, and I'm sure a lot of people's kids are like this. He was on book 5 of Harry Potter. But this was what was really interesting. He had taken an interest in George Jackson's Blood in My Eye, which has more to do with the morbid nature of the title. He didn't even realize, what was happening there. But for me, as a parent, I just really dig how revolutionary his literary development was. And this is what's more interesting is that he comprehends and can use context clues to decipher the meaning of words way beyond his years. He knew literary terms and how to use them. In particular, he was fond of onomatopoeia. And obviously, this has more to do with his fascination with construction and loud noises. Now, I'm looking at my son 12, 13 years ago when I'm writing this, right? But this is his thing. I'm writing and talking about this to say that my wife, like I said earlier in the reading of this book, she holds a postgraduate degree for which she took out numerous school loans. She has yet to get a job using those degrees. She instead made the decision to stay at home and raise our son and our daughter now, obviously. So remember, this is looking backwards. I didn't complain. I didn't say anything, even when we were struggling and at the bottom. I was always in full support of her. And in all honesty, there's no way that people, and we had some people like, what, she doesn't work? That's a job. Staying at home? That's not like fun. You're not sitting there, especially if you're homeschooling your kids. Here's the thing, though. Our son and daughter have reaped the benefits of being happy, healthy, confident children. And they see the beauty and potential in this world. They aren't jaded. This is investing. Like I said, wealth here is a completely different thing. Now, I will get into some things that will help you financially, of course, but investing is giving your children a strong foundation that creates confident, intelligent kids.